Okay, so as bizarre as it is to even have to speak about this, the truth is I can't condemn anyone. I was, for a while in my own life, an atheist. Often, perhaps, we're upset with God as a subconscious reason. Many of our beliefs are actually based on our emotions. You love someone, you think they're amazing. God forbid the opposite also. So the point of the matter is that here is five simple proofs of the existence of God, and it's just so absolutely simple. It's unbelievable. So let's start off with some facts. The fact of the matter is that two-thirds of the scientists, two-thirds believe in God. The only reason some people say science doesn't, it's because they themselves want an excuse and they're burying their heads in the sand under quote unquote science. The fact is, I'm going to use science, which is logic, to prove God. And all the greatest scientists, Einstein, for example, definitely one of the greatest scientists, was a massive believer in God. So the very first obvious proof of God is that you exist. So, you might say, well, of course I exist. I exist. Really? I'm 46 years old. So, 48 years ago, this body didn't exist. So you say, well, that's natural. So, first of all, anybody who's ever seen a baby knows that it's not natural. Um, Second of all, the actual the size of a sperm cell, so the 400 million sperm cell, 400 million. So one sperm cell, it's you can't even see it. And that contains 23 chromosomes for the father, and I think it's 23, and that goes into an egg. Now, what is the size of a female egg? The size is 1/5 of a millimeter. Imagine a fifth of a millimeter. So how does that turn into you? So, first of all, there is a force of life. I don't know if you know this, but when the sperm and the egg hit, light, and you can actually see this, you can YouTube it, you can see it, there's a spark of light. There's a soul, because without a soul, there is no life. I mean, you can have everything physical, but if there's not something that wants to live, it's this magical desire of life, and somehow has the power of life, has emotions, has intelligence, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have a capacity to exist. So that's number one. But even if you're just looking at the physical, listen to this. This is an amazing thing. That little thing is called a zygote, right? Which you could barely see with the naked eye. I mean, the size of it is, again, it's a fifth of a millimeter. That zygote is me, right? That turned into me. Now, there's no way in the world anything that size can turn into me. Now, everything in the world has done this. The elephant, the shark, the tree, it all comes from a seed. So how do you get from this to this? How did that happen? So it's obviously intelligence. It's very, very, very sophisticated intelligence that can create this machine. So one of the good examples is, imagine a computer that can basically replicate itself. It can create another computer. So that would be something of extraordinary ability, right? Somehow it's able to make another computer. We're not even talking just about the software. We're talking about the hardware, right? You would know that that's a miracle. There's no way that that can happen. So the first point of life itself is that if something is designed, this is what's called intelligent design. If it has common sense, then it has to have a brain. There had to be something that thought that thing up. And so some people carry on with this insane idea of evolution. Well, first of all, there's never been in any of the evidence. I want you to know, I heard this directly. Sometimes they have these images of a person that turns into a monkey. So there's like one or two kind of ancient skulls. And I heard this directly. I was in Africa from somebody that was in that lab. And that was actually a monkey. They thought maybe it was a human, but it wasn't. It wasn't actually an ape. There's never been any sign, any time in history, of the very basics of evolution, which would be one species turning into another species. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist on any of the historical data of any of the, it's just the whole thing is a theory out of nothing. So each one of our species, sure, there's evolution within a species. If I'm healthier, my child will be healthier, the butterfly, whatever, but not out of a species. I will never become a bird. My DNA will never allow me, and the bird's DNA will never become a human. It just won't happen. And so, number one, the science, the fact, the logic proves this fact. The second thing, which is so simple, but very, very few people, I mean, it's actually from the Rambam, one of our greatest sages, and he says as follows. He says, every planet is circling, right? The moon is circling. The sun, the universe, everything is going in circles. In fact, we know that space itself is infinitely expanding. So if something is going like this, it's circling, who's making it circle? Things don't circle on its own. And then you say, oh, it just circles. Really, it has an exact circle on its own? We're talking about something that goes exactly, never, ever, ever lowers its speed. So if you're saying something was thrown, even then it wouldn't make sense that you have these billions of different things circling perfectly. Remember, atoms also are circling, and they're circling perfectly. An atomic explosion is when those circles aren't messed up and you're smashing some neutrons into other neutrons. So that's what happens when the circle messes up. So the thing is this, that if something's going continuously at the same speed, something must be making it go. Because if it was thrown, it would slow down. And this was really the greatest question, was the universe. The basic idea was that it's now known there was a time in the beginning where they call it the Big Bang. It went out. So the question is, okay, so it's going out at this speed and then going to collapse back. But it turns out that it's a miracle. The further it goes, the faster it goes. It keeps on pushing out. And there's no way that scientifically could happen, right? You can say there was a force, but how does it keep on getting faster at the edges of the universe? And so this, of course, was all very much written in the Sefer Yetzirah, in the original books of Kabbalah, original in Rashi and the Chumash. So this is an absolute proof of God. Again, every single thing in the universe, there's not a single thing in the universe that is not circling. Everything's made up of atoms. All atoms have electrons. All electrons are circling. And they're exact circles, right? If any of these circles are out of line, the whole thing goes out of line. So that, again, that shows of a supreme, not only intelligent, but a constant force, which is creating that atom as we speak, this moment, and creating its circles. Now, that itself is another miracle, because not like God made the world once upon a time and let go. You see, if I hold this cup, how long will this cup be in the air? Only as long as I hold the cup. The moment I let go is the moment the cup drops. The same thing, the absolute same thing, is with the atoms in this cup. Before God made atoms, right, we all agree there was a time before time, space, and matter. Everyone, all scientists, came into existence. But not only did it come into existence, it comes into existence. This cup right now, and the hand that's holding it, have popped in and out of existence trillions of times. Every single thing comes in and out of existence because existence isn't real. Existence is a creation. So therefore, the energy that creates matter, and we have the math, this is one of the greatest proven theories ever. Over 20 years, it's like, I heard this from a top physicist, a decimal point of like 20 decimal points exact. So it goes from infinite potential into a finite object, and then it reverts back to the infinite potential. It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in a continuous way. Now again, Kabbalah spoke about this, but you would have to believe it. But science has proven this. We now know for sure that atoms are popping in and out of existence all the time. So this is a very, very important concept. That means that we are continuously being recreated all the time. And so, what also is important to understand is that it's all about relationships. And that's the whole thing. As people look at the physical world, they say, oh, that's big, or I want more of that. It's not about that. It's about relationships. Because even what we've discovered in the atoms, I don't want to get too lengthy, is that they relate to one another. And if you want to discover what it is, you can't, because it depends on the intentions of the person that's looking at it and thinking about it. We actually cause things to exist in certain ways based on the way we look at them. And so therefore the same thing is with people. The verse says, Kamayim apanim kain leva adam la'adam. Just as people's face reflect, let's say in a mirror, I'm seeing myself in the computer right now, I'm seeing me. So also the way I have an attitude towards you, if I have love, you'll feel that love and your heart will reflect it. So we're all busy reflecting one another, reflecting emotions. And this is a critical thing to understand, because really the universe is created basically based on string theory. It hasn't been proven, but the math is pretty good, that it's all basically frequency, vibrations. And so it's like a song. We know that God made the world with the Hebrew letters, and every letter really is a frequency. B, P, M, L. These are different frequencies. That's why you hear it on a different way. And so these frequencies are vibrating. And so when we actually put out positive energy, we not only create within ourselves, but we create in the universe positive energy. And within the source, because God allows us to affect the universe. That's how the universe has been made, that we affect it. And this is a very important principle of Kabbalah. And that's the principle that you are a creator. Many people kind of have, ironically, both religious and, if you want to call it scientific or logical or atheistic, even though science and religion go together and logic go together. But the point is that they have this mistaken idea that everything is the way it is. So if I want more, let's say I have to work harder, or I have to try harder, or amass it, whatever. They see things in a physical way, but actually things are emotional. So if you want more of something, you have to have the right emotions to attract that thing. Basically, love attracts, fear is retraction, and hate is basically destruction. And so if you have the energy of love, you will attract whatever it is you love. If the energy of fear, you will repel whatever it is you fear. If you have the energy of hate, you will clash with anything that you hate. And based on that, you have to understand what is worth doing. Is it worth loving and attracting? Is it worth fearing and repelling? Or is it worth hating and basically conflicting? And so, therefore, the positive energy that exists, of course, is the energy of love. However, and this is the final thing I'll say, and again, this is all logical and empirical, and that is, everything that makes sense, that works in a system, has to have a mind behind the system. The whole universe is mathematical. A lot of the discoveries that we have, like radio waves, is just because mathematically it had to be. Even black holes, one of the greatest geniuses, he had like IQ of 270, he postulated just based on the math that there has to be a black hole here because of the gravitational force that's going to keep this kind of galaxy together. So the math works, and that's a very basic feature. And if the math works, somebody had to create the math. If your computer works, somebody had to program that computer. It doesn't work on its own. These things, I'm actually a bit of a computer programmer. Nothing works without math. It's all logic. So behind everything that exists is logic. But behind all the logic is love. And the ultimate love is God wants us to develop a relationship with Him where we can use His infinity to continuously expand ourselves, make the world a better place, and basically bring about a world in which there is infinite cycles of growth and love and inspiration and kindness and compassion. And really it's up to you and me, because we contain the potential to make that happen through wanting it to happen. Because as soon as you want something, your desires control all parts of you. They even control your love, control your emotions. Really what you want that you love or you don't love. And so therefore, if you can focus exclusively on what your mission is to fulfill the will of God, then and only then will you be that force of infinity that will bring it about.